Hi there, I'm Meg McKean, your coach for Dynamics Producer Coaching. I am so proud to be partnering with the National Alliance for Insurance Education and Research to bring you this experience where traditional sales training ends and your real world begins. In this intimate virtual environment over the course of 8 weeks, together we'll follow a similar format. One of our weekly sessions is focused on a specific part of your sales process. Think prospecting, opportunity management, and following up. The second weekly session is open coaching. So bring your questions, your confusions, or whatever has you feeling stuck, and I'll coach you through it so that you can keep moving forward. If coaching is new for you, you can expect to be introduced to fresh methods that challenge your current way of thinking about your business and yourself, and collaboration and idea sharing with colleagues who are not your competition, and accountability, which is where the magic, if you will, truly happens. As your guide throughout this process, this marks my 24th year in the insurance industry, having spent time in underwriting, in leadership, sales, and now consulting roles. Today, I can't wait to be here with you for this special experience, and I hope you'll join us too.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live stream. We're glad you're with us today. This is going to be a special live stream where we discuss the new program of the National Alliance on Dynamics of Producer Coaching. My name is Paul Martin, and I'll be your host today for this live stream. I'm the Director of Academic Content at the National Alliance and work heavily at the Academy side of what we do. But it's my pleasure today to welcome a friend of mine and a really great insurance professional who is at the heart of our new coaching program. Her name is Meg McKean. Meg is the founder of Adjunct Advisors, where she's been in the insurance industry for a very long time and is really good at her job, done lots of different things with insurance companies, insurance agencies, been in sales, and she even has her own podcast called Bound and Determined. Did I get that right?
You did. You
did.
did.
So welcome, Meg. I'm glad to have you here.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for that warm introduction. Thank you for your friendship, to echo your kind sentiment. I appreciate the relationship that I have with you and with the National Alliance. I've been a proud CIC since July of 2009. And now to be partnering with you all in this way is it's a really neat moment for me in my own professional journey. So thanks for that. And thanks for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
Well, tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what's the backstory on Meg McKean? I mean, we all have these bios that sound like they're written by our mom, but what's your backstory? How you got where you're doing this now?
Oh, I can only imagine what my mom would say if she even understands what I do today. I've been cautioned in the past to skip too quickly over my past because to me, the good stuff is what we're doing today. But I did get here through a winding path and lived my professional and my personal journey simultaneously, as we all are. Started in the business very, very early on, right out of college, actually in college as an intern, but that was such a terrible experience. I like to forget it. But started with a strong regional carrier in their underwriting training program right out of college. And then worked my way through the ranks, if you will, at several different insurance organizations, both in a headquarters underwriting environment and then out in the field, doing both field underwriting and agency relationship management. I became then an underwriting leader within a company as well. That was a career milepost that I had not achieved yet. And I really wanted to give management, if you will, a try. I learned very quickly that there was maybe more for me out there in the industry. The phone rang and it was an old agent partner of mine that I'd known from my carrier days. And they were looking for an account executive that they knew could come in and speak insurance and also present well to their existing client base. So I had an opportunity to move over from the carrier side to the agency side and also started to sell in that environment. And that's really where it's hard to know where the business that I'm running now really came from. But I think it was probably in that moment, in that experience, that I realized we do a lot of things really well in our industry to empower the next generation of sales professionals, but we miss some things too. And as someone who has always worked and led from my heart with a sense of feeling and empathy and really leaned into who I am, I felt like a lot of the training wasn't helping the sales professionals to leverage what makes them great. And so I did take a year off. It's a critical part of my story. I was experiencing what we call burnout. Now, we didn't have language for that 6 years ago when I was feeling it, but feeling very out of alignment. I talk about this very publicly. Lots of people are feeling it in some way today as well. And the work I was doing was lucrative. It was fulfilling in the sense of I was able to support myself and earn a living, but I didn't always value and feel valued by the people that I was working with and the clients that I was serving. And so that's another thing that shows up in my business now is I'm able to truly live and work my core values. So 5 years ago, coming right up, I went out on my own and I started the consultancy that is Adjunct Advisors LLC. And today I take all of that experience and I do all sorts of project-based work that feeds the wider cultural change that we're experiencing in the insurance industry. And that's really the people. What do we stand for? How do we show up at our work? How are those values aligned? Mm-hmm. And it has led me back to the National Alliance in this capacity to build with your total trust. And I appreciate that and will never take that for granted, to build a program that I really felt was missing. And it's this beautiful blend of the technical that we need when we're salespeople, but also how do we find that alignment and how do we really lean into the feelings that we feel when we're selling insurance, which often we skip right over because that's the hard stuff. It's not the fun stuff. That's for sure.
That's for sure. You know, what's funny is you're telling your story. I think that one part of the alignment is our careers were very similar in it just that led to that and this led to that. And before you knew it, you became this person who could help people and not just help yourself, not just make money, but you could help them be better them. And I think you're right about the alignment. When you were telling your story of all the different jobs you had, I actually had a job with the coolest title. When you said field underwriter, I went, oh, I had a job where my title was special agent. Now they don't call people. I know it was the coolest thing to have on your business card. To have Paul Martin special agent. But it was what they used to call field underwriters a long time ago. And anyway, I thought that was really fun. Well, Okay, so people are on this live stream and they've heard about the program. The little commercial at the beginning was pretty good. Tell them about it. Tell them what you're trying to do and how they're going to benefit. Who would benefit from it?
Yeah, so this program, we've done one session. We called it the beta or the pilot to really see if we could prove the concept, and we did. We've had great feedback from the folks that were in that session, and we've learned a lot too. And so the iteration that we'll be talking about today is, in terms of format, it's an eight-week course, 8-week commitment, and we'll be together for 2 hours a week. So it's not a ton of time, but it's some time. You're really being intentional about dedicating some time and resources to learning in this way and to growing in this way. We'll be doing, like I mentioned earlier, a little bit more technical training. So we'll be talking about concepts like prospecting and interpersonal relationships and goal setting, and also the sale, closing the sale, probing, asking the right questions. All of that will come up in our more educational content, and that'll be the start of each session. And then the last half of each session is open coaching. And this is where you get to take the things that you're learning with me and with the others in the group, because that's a big part of this, and really apply them in your day to day. And so if you're prospecting right now because you're trying to build your proverbial pipeline, we need to talk about what that feels like and what that looks like. What are the behaviors and what are the actions that you're taking? What I think we miss in many traditional insurance sales trainings is the understanding and acceptance that there isn't one right way. There's the way that will work for you, and there's the way that you can do this that you'll be excited to get up in the morning and keep going. Because what we talk a lot about in the insurance industry is the upside of sales, right? It can be very lucrative. It's very entrepreneurial. You can build your own schedule. You can have this elusive work-life balance. It all can be yours. We don't talk about how dreadfully hard it could be. Even in the beginning, I think it takes 3 to 5 years for a producer to really hit their stride.
I agree.
And what happens in between all the actions, right? We're making calls, whether we're choosing cold calling as our avenue or we're working through social media. We talk about that as well. Or maybe you're, whatever that thing is that you've decided to do, we feel certain things in that process. And that's where the coaching comes in. So our confidence might be shot. Our alignment might be off. We might be trying to please a manager or a boss who has seemingly unrealistic expectations. We might be working really hard, but not have the results to show for it. And what happens to our confidence, what happens to our sense of worthiness in those moments are often why we quit. And so what happens in the course of 8 weeks is we start to build the good habits. We start to try some new things, but we also get to repel the things that are out of alignment. We get to hear somebody else say, I've had really good luck buying a lead list and making cold calls. And we get to say, oof, I don't want to do that. And not because it's hard or because I've never done it before, but because it's out of alignment. So if you don't want to do that, what are you going to do? And I'm there to help you figure out what that is. And collectively as a group, we're there to help each other figure that out. Interestingly, I said this in the promo video, where the magic happens is the accountability. So at the start of each session, we'll recap. If you set a goal the week before, did you meet your goal? And these are short 1-week goals. We're not talking about bringing in $100 million of revenue. We're not talking about making 10,000 cold calls, if you will. It's attainable short-term goals that will help you to create momentum, which is something we lose so quickly when we can't see instant results. And we want so desperately to see instant results, but as we know, it takes a lot longer than a month or 3 months or 6 months.
I'll tell you what, that's a secret that I don't know if folks knew this, but at the National Alliance, we have completely changed the way we work the last 3 years. And it wasn't just because of the pandemic, but what we did is we borrowed some things from tech industry, and began to implement where short-term goals, it's just the next Wednesday. Okay, can we get this done by Wednesday? And breaking big things down into small things. And the progress we've been able to make in our organization has been dramatic because we have people that are helping hold us accountable for meeting these short-term goals. And it's just somebody who's really nice and really sweet saying, are we going to be done next Thursday, Paul? Yeah, okay, I'll have it done by next Thursday. But you make a lot of progress when you add in those small steps. So I get where you're going. And I love how all those values that make work fun. I mean, can't we have fun at work? Can't this be an enjoyable thing? And you mentioned the cold callers. I've known producers, trained producers, that they were cold call machines. I mean, they make 35 calls a day, easy. And others who just said, I hate that. And instead they found another way. They found an industry that they loved. You know, it was in a hobby, related to a hobby of theirs or another interest. So I just love what you're doing. How many people do we take? Mm-hmm. How many, kind of help us, because not everybody can get in necessarily. Tell us what that's like.
Yeah. So we're capping the groups at 12, and 12 is a good, I'll say, manageable number for me as a coach. I want the individuals that choose to join us feel like they're getting that really personalized experience that they're looking for and that they deserve. And, we could go with a smaller group, but we'll cap it at 12, no more than that. Interestingly, this is something available to larger sales teams within organizations as well. So that's something worth talking about. If you've got a team, maybe of more people, then is eligible for this. The application process is really simple. We've got all sorts of FAQs on the website, and we'll share that link that will help answer maybe some of your quick questions. And then you're always welcome to schedule a call with me if you really want to dig a little bit deeper to decide if this is the right fit for you. I'm invested in it. I built my business 5 years ago on this concept of producer coaching. I've seen the value, not just in my own sales methodology, but I've seen it now with other producers over the years. And what happens is we write more business at the end of the day, which is our job as a producer, but we feel differently about the business that we're writing. We feel proud of what we're writing. We feel like we've got clients who are going to be with us for a long time instead of just temporarily. And it's not easy. It's not easy, but this is a safe environment where we can figure that out together.
Well, I know you and I have both known a lot of people that do coaching, that do producer training. I've done it for years, and I'm real proud. I think I counted up one time 350 different producers I trained. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And it was technical and in sales too, but primarily I was a technical trainer, and I loved watching their lives, as they grew up and had success. I saw people wash out, and I felt bad for them when I saw that kind of thing. But I'm really, really pleased to have you at the center of this program, because you're that next generation up. A lot of those guys I knew and worked with are retired or gotten old or whatever. And this generation of, 20 somethings and early 30s, whatever they are, it's different. I mean, I have a son in that range, and his generation is different than mine. And I think it's wonderful that we have someone with your perspective in the program.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for seeing that. And this is sweet spot work for me, which I think we're all shooting for in our careers, is can we find a way to do a job and make a living, but also show up wholly and authentically as ourselves. And I get to do this in this work. And so I appreciate that very much. And it's okay if you're not there. I think that's the other piece of this. The other, often we only see what we see around us inside the four walls. Even if we're working virtually, we see the culture of the organization that we work for. We see the boss or the manager or the mentor that we've been assigned to. And it's important to remember that those aren't the only perspectives out there. And sometimes having an uninterested third party, which is what I like to call myself, you can set a goal with me and not meet it the following Monday, and there's no consequence. I'm not going to fire you. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to shame you. It really is there if you want it. And I think there's something really powerful about making this investment for yourself, that you want to show up differently in your work, regardless of what's going on around you. Because even though we like to think that our sales goals are ours alone, there's a lot of competition within our organizations, even if they're not positioned that way. One of the most beautiful conversations we had this last time around was around measurement in sales. We talked about the leaderboard, and unanimously, the verdict was the leaderboard is a very harmful thing for a young salesperson just starting out. It's not a motivator, it's a detractor. And yet all of us, I shouldn't say all, many organizations still have a leaderboard, or they send around an email or a spreadsheet and they congratulate the top and they maybe don't congratulate the bottom. And there's always context, right? Context matters. And in our business, we love our numbers and our math and our data. And I'm here for that, right? We're for-profit entities. We need to make a living. We need to bring in revenue. But at the end of the day, our business is still people focused. And so this environment does both, which is a beautiful harmony that I think we've struggled to find in our industry in terms of training like this, that it's okay to have a bad day. And it's okay to say you're having a bad day. It doesn't mean you're not good at what you're doing. It doesn't mean that you haven't made good progress or that the elusive success that you're looking for won't come. It just means we need to keep going. And what do you do in those moments? It's a tricky spot for a lot of people.
And I've watched producers that have grown, and it's two-sided. I mean, you got to find the way to do the sales. You got to figure out a way to do it. It's going to match your personality and everything else. And then you got this technical side over here. I have asked this question for years of young producers. I said, okay, at what point did you really feel comfortable? You weren't nervous anymore. Just technically, I know enough what I'm talking about that I won't be nervous walking in there. They're not going to be able to ask me a question that I don't have an answer for. And I've had very successful producers tell me, it probably took 6 or 7 years. And I went, that's a long learning curve. I mean, all this emotional stuff over here and all this pressure to sell and make money. And then you've got this other beast over here that I have to learn all these policies and what they do and how they're rated. And And so one of the things I'm so glad we're doing this, because at the National Alliance, we have been doing that kind of stuff forever, for 50 years. And we've had our Dynamics of Selling program, which has been very, very good. But this is different. This is something that we're scratching the itch there that we've never had a tool to scratch with before. And I'm just tickled about it. Okay, somebody asked the question. They said, what if they've been in the business 20 years? Okay, or 25 years, they're already feeling old or whatever. Could this be for them too?
Absolutely. It's the old, can you teach old dogs new tricks, right? If you're an old dog willing to learn new tricks, absolutely. And I'm going to answer this in 2 ways and just share with you a little reflection from our last session, which I think really highlights. We had, I'll call a seasoned veteran producer in the group. We had several of them actually. And one of them really decided that they wanted to leverage social media in their business process, and they hadn't been up to that point. And so they used our 8 weeks together as a training ground, if you will, to start experimenting with social media. Now, this was a producer who'd been in the business for 30 years and had the right energy and the right attitude that I don't know everything, and I'm not ready to be done and retired in place and just ride out into the sunset. I want to continue to engage and be active in the business. Interestingly, in one of our last sessions, what happens over the sense of 8 weeks is you develop some pretty great, not just camaraderie, but some friendships. And these are moment in time, but could end up being lifelong, career-long relationships, because this is a safe space. We talk about the hard things and we're honest with ourselves and we're honest with each other. And that's a commitment that you make when you join this group, is that it's Vegas rules, right? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in Dynamics Producer Coaching stays. And one of our last sessions, we had a young producer, young in tenure in terms of his experience in the industry. And they were also a new parent and really struggling with this idea of my income fluctuates. It's not stable yet. I'm having some feelings about my fitness for this work. Did I make the right choice? And then we've got this seasoned veteran producer in the room who's saying, I remember what it was like to feel that way. You can do this. And you believe it from somebody who's been there, but not just from somebody who's a voice on a podcast saying, yeah, you can do it. Just put your head down and keep working hard. There's 8 weeks of trust built up and mentorship in a very non-aggressive in your face way. It's open communication where we're sharing ideas and we're sharing wins and we're sharing struggles. And this dynamic that I was able to witness, I was just a fly on the wall for that conversation, only happens because people choose to show up in this space wholly as themselves. The good messy, the bad messy, and everything in between. And I get to be there for it. And part of my gifts, if you will, Paul, is to recognize that I'm able to do that. Part of one of the things that I heard over and over again when we did discovery calls to fill the last session is, I just like your energy, Meg. I just want an excuse to spend a couple hours a week with you and be in your energy, which is a very weird thing to say and to say about yourself, but that is my gift. And to facilitate and hold space for these conversations is something that I can do and do successfully. And so when all of those dynamics, pun intended, are working together, you see real transformation, not just in your business, but in your life. So often members will say, my relationship with my spouse is different. I'm more patient. I'm a better listener. Why? Because we're talking about these things in our sessions. Because at the end of the day, the people who are buying insurance from us are so tired of being sold insurance too. They're so ready for something different. And we spend so much time, you alluded to this, Paul, the knowledge gap that we have when we start out. There's so much we don't know. We spend so much time compensating for what we don't know that we forget to leverage what's already inside us and what's already great. We're already fully formed humans on day one in this gig. Can you figure out what that is and go leverage that? And the insurance piece will come. And I don't mean to diminish. It's a steep learning curve in our business, but there are places, there are resources inside our firms. The National Alliance is one. We don't do technical insurance training in our group, but you better believe that we've had producers bring to the table questions like, I'm going to meet with a plastics manufacturer. What are 3 questions I could ask this CEO so that I don't look like I don't know what I'm talking about to get the conversation going? We've had conversations about how to manage relationships with underwriters because you're getting declination after declination and you need to get to a yes faster. How do you do that? Also, how do you manage the relationship with your boss, which can be really tricky and often not always feel good. And so we've talked about, I mean, obviously all those things and more, but that's really, those are some examples of kind of the magic that's happening within these sessions.
Well, I hope it is magic, and I believe it will be. To the folks that may be watching, I know you have a lot of questions in here, and we can't get to all of them, but if you have an interest in the program, it's real easy. You can go to scic.com, and you can find the Dynamics Producer Coaching, and there's an interest form. And you complete that interest form. It comes to us as an email. We get those to Meg, and then Meg leads us on building out the group. But that doesn't cost a thing for you to check it out and have a conversation with somebody about if this is right for you. But I just want everybody to know, and I know Meg feels this way, we want you to succeed. We want all of you that are watching this to have success, not just in insurance, but in your life. And we want to do whatever we can to help make that happen. So, Meg, thank you for taking the time to do this with me today.
Paul, so fun. Anytime you call, I'm going to answer.
It's a lot of fun. Hey, and I hope I see you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm excited. If anybody's out there and curious, now's the time. We're here to answer questions. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for joining us. See you next time.